He said his movies were bad and called him an actor's enemy. Robert Duvall hated this famous actor so much that he turned down millions of dollars to stay away from him. Their nasty fight got so bad that John Wayne had to step in and end it. Duvall gave a harsh answer when asked if he would work with him again. Never. I don't care if I never do. You will not believe who Duvall's most hated co-star is. His birthday is January 5, 1931, and he was born in San Diego, California. His family had strong ties to both the arts and the military. Mildred, his mother, loved singing and often did shows in the area. Duvall was related to Confederate General Robert E. Lee through her family tree. This relationship would later help him get one of his biggest movie parts. William was his father. He was a famous officer in the Navy and became a captain when he was only 39 years old. Structure and rules were important when you grew up in a military home. There were many moves for the Duvall family. They lived on military bases in Maryland, Rhode Island, and Virginia, among other places. That's where Robert lived most of his youth. Robert didn't want to join the Navy, even though his father wanted him to. Afterward, he said that acting was the only thing he was good at in school. He became interested in playing when he was young, first at Severn School in Maryland and then at the Principia in Missouri. He studied theater at Illinois' Principia College after high school because that was something he was interested in. He got his degree in theater in 1953, but his life had other ideas. In the same year, he started playing full-time. He joined the Army. As soon as the Korean War finished, he joined the Army and was sent to Camp Gordon in Georgia to serve for about a year. His time in the service was different from that of his father. He was only a private first class, and he often made fun of the fact that he wasn't very good at being tough. Still, he did something important during that time. He joined a neighborhood theater show. He thought about what he really wanted to do when he had that small part in the play Room Service. He did something big in 1955. He got ready and moved to New York City to attend the neighborhood Playhouse School of the Theater and study acting seriously. The school taught the Sanford Meisner method, which was all about being honest and natural on stage. He wasn't by himself. Dustin Hoffman, Gene Hackman, and James Caan were all in his class. They were all young, poor, and driven. It wasn't easy to live in New York. He did any job he could get just to pay the rent. He worked in stores, handled mail, and even drove trucks. He didn't act in these jobs, but they helped him understand regular people, which helped him give his characters more meaning later on. Hoffman, Hackman, and he all lived in the same small room together. They often switched off sleeping on a fold-out couch. They had a hard time together, but kept going. After many years, all three of them would become Hollywood stars, with dozens of Oscar nods and wins between them. It was on stage that Duvall got his first real chance. People took notice of him when he played a man with problems in The Midnight Caller. A writer named Horton Foote saw him in that part and later helped him get even bigger jobs. In tough plays like A View from the Bridge, which won him an Obie Award in 1965, Duvall kept showing what he could do, but it was a quiet but strong movie part that made everyone aware of him. He played Boo Radley in To Kill a Mockingbird in 1962. Boo doesn't say a word in the movie, but Duvall made the part stand out. With just his eyes and body language, he showed how mysterious and kind Boo was. Horton Foote thought he was right for the part because he had seen him on stage. I agreed with author Harper Lee. She sent a letter that said, "Hey, Boo." Duvall stayed out of the sun for weeks to make herself look pale and ghostly. He bleached his hair white to look like Boo from the book. These small choices helped him blend in with the part. Until the very end, Boo is not shown in the movie. This builds tension. The moment Scout finally sees Boo and quietly says, "Hey, Boo," is quiet and sad. He is not the monster some people thought he was. Instead, he is the one who keeps Scout and her brother safe. As the story goes on, he stands for innocence as the mockingbird that shouldn't be hurt. Duvall had one line in the movie at first, but it was cut. He didn't need words in the end. His show was strong even without them. Robert Duvall's performance as Tom Hagen in the Godfather movies is still one of the most famous in movie history. Hagen was more than just the Corleone family's lawyer. They trusted him and knew that he could solve their problems with words instead of violence. Duvall gave him a quiet power in the role. He lived with the family, but he never really fit in. Even though Vito Corleone took him in as a child, he always felt like a stranger because he was German and Irish. He wasn't like Michael or Sonny. He didn't want power or do things based on how he felt. Hagen was steady, smart, and always planned ahead. Duvall's acting in The Godfather, which came out in 1972, stood out. Hagen wasn't a less important figure. He was involved in all the big decisions and was often the one who calmed things down or dealt with tense situations. When he was young, he went to see Hollywood director Jack Waltz and did something that became famous. It was nice of Hagen to ask Johnny Fontaine to be in a movie. They sent a message when that didn't work. When Waltz woke up, the head of his beloved horse was in bed with him. It wasn't Hagen who made the threat, but he made sure it got through. The part of Hagen had changed by the time The Godfather Part 2 came out in 1974. After an attempt on Michael's life, he left the country to find out who was behind it. He left Hagen to fill in as Don while he was away. That showed how much his family believed in him. At first, things were fine, but Michael turned cold and cruel. He began to push Hagen away. He didn't tell him anything, which Vito would never have done. In quiet ways, Duvall showed this change. Hagen was always faithful, but you could tell he wasn't sure. He stood by the family, even though he didn't always agree with Michael. In 1972, Duvall was up for the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. Even though he didn't win, being nominated meant a lot. Michael, played by Pacino, and Vito, played by Brando, were both loud and fierce, but Hagen was calm and quiet. He didn't need important talks. He didn't need to scream. The way he spoke gave him power. He was always calm and careful. Because of this, he was one of the most interesting figures in the series. When The Godfather Part 3 was announced, a lot of people thought Duvall would be back. But things had changed in the movie world by 1990. There was an offer of $8 million, 0 cents, for Al Pacino to play the part again. Duvall was given a lot less. Even though he didn't want equal pay, he said no when he saw the big difference. Afterward, he said it didn't matter to him if Pacino had made twice as much money. But he left when the difference was 3 or 4 times what it was. The writing had to be changed without Duvall. Hagen wasn't added to the story, he was written out. They said he died outside of the show. A new lawyer for families, Harrison, played by George Hamilton, was added, but it wasn't the same. Both fans and reviewers saw that something was missing. Even the director, Francis Ford Coppola, said that Duvall's departure changed the whole plot of the movie. At first, the story was going to be about Michael and Hagen's friendship, and maybe even a power fight between them. That idea was dropped, though, after Hagen left. A lot of people think it hurt the movie. Duvall never moved away from the first 2 movies, even though he didn't come back for the 3rd one. He told stories from the set over the years. The most well-known one was about Marlon Brando. Brando didn't like having to remember lines, so he hid cue cards all over the set. They were taped to walls or hidden behind props. Duvall had Brando's lines taped to his chest in one scene. Brando thought that trying to find the right words helped his acting seem more real. Some people thought it was lazy, but the effects were clear. His role as Don Vito Corleone became famous. He even won an Oscar for it, but he reportedly didn't want to take it. Robert Duvall has played some of the most memorable movie roles. Even though his parts are big, they always feel real. He played Lieutenant Colonel Bill Kilgore in Apocalypse Now. Kilgore was a fighter who was both cute and scary. Francis Ford Coppola directed a movie that showed the Vietnam War in a strange and scary way. Kilgore had nothing to be scared of. He played war like it was a game. He said, "I love the smell of napalm in the morning," which is one of the most famous lines in movie history. Kilgore thought that damage was a kind of victory and didn't seem to notice the terrible things going on around him. Duvall did not make up that character out of thin air. He had 40 tiny pain around him. His own father was a commander in the Navy and had been in the Army himself. He knew what real soldiers did. It's one of Kilgore's stranger moments when he tells his men to surf while bombs are going off. He doesn't seem to know about the war at all. And then there's the famous scene in the helicopter where Wagner's Ride of the Valkyries plays while bombs fall. It's one of the most memorable scenes ever captured on film. Duvall wasn't in many scenes, but each one he was in was important. He got a Golden Globe and helped make Apocalypse Now a famous movie. In The Great Santini that same year, he played a very different kind of fighter. He was Lieutenant Colonel Wilbur Bull Meacham this time. He was a tough Marine fighter who was proud in the air but mean at home. He didn't treat his family like a group of friends, but like a squad. Ben, his son, was the one who got hurt the most. Meacham and Ben play basketball in a painful scene. Meacham doesn't like it when Ben finally wins. He gets mad instead of happy. Duvall didn't just make Meacham a bad guy, though. The character showed he cared in small ways, even though he didn't know how to show love. Some reviewers said that Duvall made Meacham more likable than he was in the book. The movie showed how too much power can hurt people and how men should feel about their pride. Meacham tries to make things right with his family at the end, but it's too late. That role got Duvall a nomination for an Oscar. Another few years passed, and in Tender Mercies, he gave one of his kindest and most moving performances. He played Max Sledge, a country singer who was drunk and had lost almost everything. The movie showed his quiet journey as he tried to start over in a small Texas town. After meeting a widow and her son, he fell in love and began to change. Duvall learned how people spoke and lived by traveling all over Texas. He sang all of Mac's songs himself. There is a very sad scene in the movie where Mac tries to get back in touch with his daughter. She dies in a car accident just as they were getting back together. That moment breaks my heart because it shows that some chances never come back. The movie was kind and clever. In small, quiet ways, it looked at healing and hope. He said it was one of his most important parts. He played it cool, letting small movements and looks say everything. The movie didn't do very well at the box office, but he got an Oscar for it. It was liked because it was honest and had a lot of complexity. After many years, Duvall gave the Apostle everything he had. It wasn't just another playing job for him. It was his dream. He made the movie, wrote the story, and paid for most of it himself. He thought the story was good enough that no company wanted to make it. He played Sonny Dewey, a Pentecostal speaker who moves people but also has problems with his pride and anger. While angry, Sonny hits a man. He then gets baptized and tries to start over in a small Louisiana town. It only took 7 weeks to make the movie. A lot of the guests were real churchgoers, which made the scenes feel real and not staged. Sonny was nice and hard to understand. One of the best parts of the movie is when he preaches and waits patiently to win over a racist construction worker. This showed his strength and his flaws at the same time. It was never silly for Duvall to play the part. He kept things real. It paid off for him. He was up for another Oscar, and many reviewers said the picture was honest. Even though it wasn't a big hit, many people were moved by how honestly it showed faith and forgiveness. Duvall once said that teaching is one of the best art forms in the United States. He brought that art to life in The Apostle. His personal life has had a lot of ups and downs, just like his long work. He's been married 4 times, and each one has its own story to tell. Barbara Benjamin, who used to dance on the Jackie Gleason show, was his first wife. In the early 1960s, they met on the set of To Kill a Mockingbird. Barbara already had 2 girls from a previous relationship when she married him in 1964. Their names were Nancy and Susan. It took Duvall a while to find his place in Hollywood at that time, but movies like The Godfather quickly made him famous. Fame helped them do well, but it also put pressure on them. They were no longer married in 1975. He doesn't talk about those years a lot, but they were good for him. Barbara died in New York City in 2019 after many years. Duvall got married again 7 years after his first split, this time to actress Gail Youngs in 1982. John Savage, Robin Young, and Jim Youngs are just a few of the stars in her family. They worked together on the movie Tender Mercies, which won Duvall his Oscar. Their playing made them seem close, but it wasn't enough to keep their marriage together. They were no longer together by 1986. Duvall had said before that he would never marry an actor, but he changed his mind about Gail. Maybe the fact that they worked in the same field caused them to break up, but it couldn't have been easy. He got married a 3rd time in 1991. His wife, Sharon Brophy, worked as a dancer. They became friends because they both loved dancing, especially Argentine tango. At one point, Sharon even taught him how to tango. But that one-of-a-kind bond wasn't enough to keep the marriage together. In 1996, they got a divorce. Sharon stayed out of the public eye after the split, unlike Duvall's other wives. In the same year, something strange took place. Luciana Pedza is an Argentine actor and director that Duvall met. At first, she didn't know who he was and asked him to a party. They got along right away, even though they were 41 years apart in age. Born in Argentina in 1972, Luciana was the oldest of 5 sisters. Before becoming a movie star, she got her MBA. As time went on, they worked on more movies together, like Wild Horses and Assassination Tango. One of the things that brought them together was their love of tango. They got married in 2005 and have been together ever since. The two of them started the Robert Duvall Children's Fund to help children and families in need, especially in Argentina. They also worked and danced. Duvall has been married 4 times, but he has never had kids. He doesn't talk about it very often. As a joke, he said in one interview that he was shooting blanks, but that was all he said. Whether he meant to or not, he's never shown grief. Duvall kept building a great business while his personal life went through these stages. In 1989, he played one of his favorite parts in Lonesome Dove. Tom Lee Jones played Gus McCrae, a former Texas Ranger who went on one last cow drive with his old partner. People really liked the movie, and it gave the Western genre a new lease on life. More than 26 million people watched over 4 nights. Duke made Gus friendly, funny, and real. Afterward, he said it was his favorite part, even more so than The Godfather. Lonesome Dove won a lot of awards, including 7 Emmys. Duvall didn't win for Best Actor, though. James Woods did. He did get a Golden Globe. It broke my heart and moved me to tears when Gus died in the series. "It ain't about dying, Woodrow, it's about living," he said, stuck with people. Reviewers said that Duvall gave the character a lot of depth. Gus wasn't just a cowboy, he was a person too. Duvall played 2 tough historical parts in the early 1990s. He played Joseph Stalin, the leader of the Soviet Union, in an HBO movie in 1992 that showed their rise to power. The fact that the movie was shot in Russia right before the fall of the Soviet Union made it seem even more real. Duvall worked hard to get the part. He talked to scholars and watched old movies. He said Stalin was like a street gangster who was afraid and in charge. Another Golden Globe was given to him for his work. In 1996, he played Adolf Eichmann, one of the people who planned the Holocaust, in the movie The Man Who Captured Eichmann. After Eichmann was caught in Argentina, the story followed what happened until he was put on trial in Israel. Duvall played him not as a monster, but as a man who did bad things with cold indifference. He was nominated for another Emmy for a performance that was both dark and powerful. Duvall kept taking on important parts as he got older. In 1998, he played Jerome Fazer in the movie A Civil Action. Fazer was a smart and clever lawyer who defended companies that were accused of poisoning a town's water. He played the part as a man doing his job, not as someone bad. There was an Oscar mention for him for the part. In the 2009 movie Get Low, he played Felix Bush, a guy who lived alone in the 1930s. Tennessee, who wants to mourn their own death while they're still alive. The movie was about shame, hiding things, and making things right. A lot of reviewers said it was one of his best shows. Robert Duvall has never been shy. He's known for giving strong acts and being honest. He also doesn't hold back when it comes to talking about other people in the movie business. He's been very clear over the years that he has high standards and won't put up with anything less. Director Stanley Kubrick was one of the people he spoke badly of the most. Duvall wasn't shy when he talked at a group chat. He said that Kubrick was an enemy of actors and said great things about the acting in some of Kubrick's best-known movies. Many people really liked movies like The Shining and A Clockwork Orange, but Duvall thought the acting was awful in those movies. He didn't blame the players, though. He blamed the way Kubrick worked. Duvall didn't understand how a director who made his players do dozens of takes could decide which ones were better. He thought that kind of precision made acting bad. Duvall didn't just say bad things about old directors, he also said mean things about new ones. Someone at that same meeting talked about David Fincher, and Duvall claimed he didn't know who he was. It wasn't until he knew who they were that he brought up turning down a part in Seven. He said he didn't know why he turned down the part, but that Fincher's style might have turned him off even if it was just in his gut. He also talked about how hard it was to work on True Grit with director Henry Hathaway. Duvall made it clear that they didn't get along. He didn't say much other than Hathaway's demanding way of directing clashes with the way he used to act. Things got so tense at one point that John Wayne stepped in and told Duvall to back off or get hit. It was clear that the set wasn't very quiet. Duvall was known for being tough throughout his career, but he had a good reason for that. Among the best directors, he named George Lucas, Francis Ford Coppola, and Ulu Grossbard. He said they had no issues with him. He only got into trouble with directors he didn't like. He didn't try to hide how angry he was if they weren't good enough in his eyes. Things got tricky even when he worked with directors he liked. Coppola was someone he looked up to, but he turned down The Godfather Part 3 because of a pay disagreement. He said it was okay if Al Pacino got paid twice as much, but not 3 or 4 times as much. He also made fun of the time Coppola came to his house to talk about the movie, but was more interested in a crab cake recipe Duvall's mother made than in whether Duvall would return to the movie. Things got off to a great start with Steven Spielberg. Duvall said that the beginning of Saving Private Ryan was one of the most realistic things he had ever seen in a movie. Their friendship later became bad because of politics, though. Duvall was very angry when Spielberg went to Cuba and met with Fidel Castro. He said Castro was a killer and Spielberg was being a bad negotiator. Even more, he said he would never work with Spielberg's company DreamWorks again, and that it didn't bother him if he never did. He has always believed that in the movie business, you should do great work and not put up with anything less. He never lied or tried to be someone he wasn't, whether people liked it or not. Robert Duvall's shocking statements have finally broken the perfect image of one of Hollywood's most respected giants after 60 years in the business. The shocking truth is clear. Behind his great acting was a man who wouldn't give in, even if it cost him millions of dollars. He turned down The Godfather Part 3 because of money issues and had fights with Stanley Kubrick and Henry Hathaway. Duvall never cared that his harsh honesty didn't make him many friends in the business. Many years ago, he said, "The best directors never had a problem with me. The rest simply weren't good enough." His unwavering honesty is what led him to leave some of Hollywood's biggest brands and make some A-listers refuse to work with him again. Whether you like or dislike Robert Duvall, his heated fights show a rare trait in Hollywood, a star who put his beliefs ahead of money, even if it meant making strong friends along the way. The question still stands, was he hard to work with or just expecting the best?